We are getting started with the main stage panel. This is about generational trauma. Whew. We might need that breath exercises, okay, even during and throughout. So to guide us through this, we have Dr. Tonya Martin. Dr. Tonya Martin, come on up here. Oh, let me move my stuff out the way. Let me get this microphone. That one is on for you. All right, let me move this. Yeah, there you go. And she has worked in Chicago, Southside Stand Up, okay, and Houston, primarily with the forensic adolescent and adult clients in various settings, including state prisons, county jails, residential treatment settings, community-based and mental health settings, doing both therapy and psychological evaluations. And currently, Dr. Martin, is also employed at the Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD, where she is the chief psychologist at the Harris County Juvenile Probation Department Forensic Unit. All right.
It's a mouthful. There's no need to.
I watch a lot of Law and Order, so I immediately think that you're the person that comes in and helps the DA with people.
Something like that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. See. My imagination is accurate this morning. Now joining Doctor is Chris Reed. Chris is a sports. Chris, where you at? Come on up here, Chris. Chris, you'll just sit there for a moment, then I'll give you my microphone. Is a sports management executive specializing in recreational and sports-based youth development, previously serving as the executive director for the Los Angeles Football Club. Chris is currently the director of national partnerships for the Center for Healing and Justice Through Sports and co-host of the podcast, Coaching While Black. Welcome, brother. Welcome. And Mayra in the house. Oh, we need one more chair. Thank you, Chris. Look at him just jumping into action. Come on down, Mayra. I know we were doing the tutorial for the 360, but okay. She's like, I got it now. Mayra Figueroa-Clark. We'll provide you an audience when you go do that. Give her a round of applause, yes. And Mayra is a traumologist? Okay, traumologist. All right. The therapist for therapists, as well as a clinical psychotherapist and founder of Your Restoration Place. She's a certified clinical trauma professional trained in eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, and meditation with her own private practice in Washington, D.C. Give it up for Mayra. Now, Chris, I'm going to give you this one. You need it to be pink? Let me go work on it. He's going to get your sound on this one, too.
Okay, well, it's amazing to meet all of you guys. Thank you so much for coming to our session. I think in the beginning, we're actually going to start off with a game that Chris is going to just kind of kick off so we can start. It's kind of a heavy topic, so we kind of want to start off a little lighter.
All right, so if everybody could stand up. And I need everybody to find a partner. So it should be two of you. So it'll be two of you so you all can partner up. If you don't have a partner, if you need a partner, I'll be your partner. Does everybody have a partner? I think she needs a partner right there. Everybody else in the back got a partner? You need a partner? You come up. All right. I'm going to come down to you. What's your name? Cliff? Chris. So this is the hardest thing you're going to do today. So I want you to turn and face your partner. All right? Actually, no. Face me first. When I say turn. When you say turn and face your partner, all you're doing is counting 1 to 5. It's going to look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just turn and face your partner. You're just going to count back and forth 1 to 5. All right, just turn and practice. Ready, go. 5. All right, you can stop. All right, yeah.
I need a breathing exercise from that. I mean, I was stressed out. I was like, is it 1, is it 5, is it 2?
A little stressful? All right. So here's what we're going to do. Now, this round, you're going to take 30 seconds with your partner. Instead of saying the number 1, you're going to replace the number 1 with emotion. All right? And don't just do this. Please don't be lazy. Like, do some type of movement, like wake up this morning. Let's wake up. Let's turn number 1 into emotion. And when I say go, instead of saying the number 1, you're going to do your motion instead of 2, 3, 4. Motion, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right? Perfect. So take 30 seconds, work with your partner, come up with your motion, and then implement it to your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Do you mean a movement?
You want me to do it? Y'all want us to do it? All right, Cliff, we got it. Just one. We just doing a movie for one. So what you want our movie to be? I'm one, you're two. So two. No. Oh, two. Yeah. Three. So I can four. Five. Now you do. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. So it's 3, 4, 5. 2, 4, 3, 4, 5. 2.
Okay. All right, I'm ready. All right, let's do it.
No. So everybody got a motion? We got a motion. Y'all need some help? So just keep your motion for one. Every time one comes around, you're supposed to do the motion 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So let's practice your first motion. Ready, set, go.
2, 3,
5. 2, 3. And stop. All right, we good? We good? We good? All right, we're gonna take it up another level. So now keep number one. Remember number one. You're gonna add 2 and 3. All right, we're gonna add motions for 2 and 3. Different motions. Don't do the same motion. Keep your one, but add a motion for 2 and a motion for 3. All right, take another 30 seconds. Ready, go. 4, 5. 5. All right, everybody got their motions? We good? Y'all good? Y'all good? All right, let's go. 1, 2, and 3. We shouldn't hear anymore. It's just 4 and 5. Ready, set, go. 4. 5. No, you're one, because I was. Wait. Okay, we can do 4. We got this. And stop. All right, how we feeling? How we feeling? A little stress? We good? Y'all good? We good over here? We good in the back? All right, so the last one. Keep your 1, 2, and 3. Now we're gonna add 4. We're going to add 4 and 5, all right? So last one, we're going to add 4 and 5, so take another 30 seconds, add 4 and 5. Remember your 1, 2, and 3, all right? There you go. Exactly that. So. No, y'all good. Y'all got it. Y'all got it. Yeah. And stop. All right. You all can have a seat. Y'all can have a seat. Thank you, Cliff.
So, Chris, can you tell us kind of how that game kind of connects in terms of like your background and then the topic of generational trauma?
Yeah. So, in my work, a lot of what we do is help coaches to understand young people, brain traumas, triggers, overwhelming amounts of stress. So we try to get coaches to understand little games like this can have many purposes, helping create connections, helping you to kind of break up the monotony of like not knowing anybody, but also just being creative, you know, giving young people the opportunity to take ownership over something. And when you talk about generational trauma, a lot of it is you don't have ownership over new things. You have ownership over things that were passed down to you, whether it's a parent dying and you got to take care of their stuff, or, you know, family burdens, or like I have a friend, her mom died, and so now she has to take care of her uncle, you know, and she's 35. You know, she can't start her life because she's taking on her mom's perceived burden. So we try to make sure that young people get what they need out of coaching, from coaches understanding the brain and understanding where they are in their development of their brain, but also where they are in the development of their emotions. Because oftentimes young we look at children as peons or robots. Like, you shouldn't have problems. You should be happy. You should be this. You should be that. But they're human just like we are too. And what we missed out on is a lot of stuff that we're struggling with now started in adolescence. And it was because we wouldn't have people around us, whether they were parents, teachers, coaches, who understood what we were going through. And it was passed down like, oh, we all dealt with that, so you're going to deal with it too.
Yeah. And so for generational trauma, I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about today, right? So things that are kind of passed down to you that, you didn't really ask for or, anything like that. And so when we kind of planned for this session, it was funny how like each one of us, our backgrounds kind of just connect really well. So a lot of, I feel like the kids that Chris sees, are kids that I see downtown. So I work for juvenile probation. And I've always worked with individuals that are involved in the legal system in some way. So they have some kind of criminal charge, for example. And so we see a lot of like cycles of abuse, for example. So things like physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse that are just kind of passed down throughout generations. So we see individuals that have an abusive parent. Those particular children that experience those things will sometimes grow up to also then either physically, sexually, or emotionally abuse their children. And unfortunately, these are things that kind of can lend to people staying in those kind of incarceration settings as well. So we see cycles of abuse, we see cycles of substance use as well, that just leads to people kind of staying in these kind of settings because it's very hard for them to manage those emotions and to even realize sometimes when something is going wrong, right? So realizing when they're in an abusive relationship, to them, it's just a regular relationship sometimes. And so those are things that we commonly see as well. Yeah, and I know Mayra in her work also sees a lot of very similar things.
Yeah, one of the things that I want to, good morning, buenos dias, mi gente, ¿cómo están? How are you? Yes, one of the things that is important to understand about generational trauma or intergenerational or intra-generational trauma, first, it's not in the DSM. So let me ask this first. Who are my mental health professionals here? My psychologists, my counselors? Yes. So it's not in the DSM. So can I stand? Is that right? One of the things that we do is we put PTSD and when we see generational trauma. So we have findings now, research, that now shows that individuals whose parents or grandparents have experienced a trauma, have had a trauma experience, have a gene or epigenetic gene attached to their DNA. So anyone has any heritage in refugees or slavery or imprisonment or oppression? Anyone, just anyone. Yes. So I have a little kind of like a tag on one of our genes that is an adaptive tab, right? It allows us to adapt to what's going on in our world because it's the way your parents had to adapt, and your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your great-great-grandparents. So when you find yourself angry, I'm going to give you a personal example. My mom had an arranged marriage in Puerto Rico in the 40s and 50s. Yes, I'm old. And in the 40s and 50s, they had arranged marriages in essence. It sounds worse, but basically it's like, I have a good girl who would be really great for your good boy, right? That kind of stuff. So my mom had that happen and she married this man and he was abusive. She was in a domestic violence situation. I'm her youngest, so I never ever seen it, experienced it, heard of it. Nothing. I'm her youngest. She was the first divorce in my family. Praise God. She moved to New York, which is northern Puerto Rico, for those of you who don't know. It is.
Also northern Jamaica. Bullet.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. My first boyfriend was Jamaican, okay? Who spoke Spanish. Okay, so, in the Bronx.
Okay.
So here's what happened. That same boyfriend, actually, he and I had an argument. And he grabbed me and pinned me to the wall. And I kicked him, punched him, and he was on the floor, and my knees was on his chest. And I'm like, I will kill you. I have no idea where that anger came. I know now. And he was shocked, right? Because he was just trying to prevent me to do something. He moved away. He left. Of course, we broke up. I did not even get into any domestic relationship. Years later, I learned about this epigenetic trait, this anger, this rage that lives inside of me when a man touches me. Where do you think that came from? My mom wasn't pregnant with me, y'all. It was her. It was her genes that came into mine. It's the epigenetic. So you have to know that when we talk about generational trauma, we're talking about stuff that you deal with right now in your body, in your life, in your daily walk that triggers you and you don't even know why. Why am I so angry? Why am I so sad? Why am I so anxious? Don't ask why. Where did it come from? Ask that.
And unfortunately, some people never get to that point where they start to ask those questions, right? So as I was even thinking about our talk, and thinking about like what we can even leave with you guys, right? I think that a part of really kind of healing those generational wounds, if you will, is increasing your insight into that pattern overall. And unfortunately, some people will almost never get there. Or it takes years sometimes to really unfold all of those different patterns.
Yes.
And to also recognize sometimes that the pattern is actually toxic, because sometimes people can recognize the pattern, but they're just like, well, yeah, my dad was a drunk, my grandfather was a drunk, so that's just what we do. That's just what it is, right? So I know that's just going to be what my life is, but letting them know that that's not what they have to accept. Right? Like that's also part of the healing journey, I feel like, as well, for a lot of people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the things is like, if you work with youth or if you are a mental health professional, we don't apply those things to our personal life, right? Like we can put it out, but we don't really look inward. And when you start to look inward, you look at your parents and you look at your ancestors as just people. And you can start to dissect like, oh, this is what happened. Oh, this was the turning point. This is why you behave this way. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you are this, that, and the third. It's because something happened to you along the way. Absolutely. You didn't have the tools to govern, and the people around you didn't either. Yeah. And so because we talked about this on our call, I feel like our generation, we're the ones that have to like change the narrative. We're doing the work now, but we're not doing the work just for ourselves. And I think that's the thing, is like you have to do the work for yourself, your parents, your siblings. If you still have your grandparents, like my grandmother raised me, she's no longer here. But even doing the work and going through the journey that I've been going through, I start to see what she struggled with. I start to see why her children are struggling, because she didn't have enough, because she was doing so many other things, but also trying to protect herself physically, emotionally, and mentally, and working in a new space. She moved from Alabama to Mississippi to Ohio to DC in a 6-7 year span. She didn't have identity. She didn't have agency. So when you start to really look at your people, your family as humans, and not that's my mom or that's my dad or that's my cousin, as humans, you can actually be able better to dissect what's going on and maybe be able to help them if they're open to help. Because that's the other part of that too. Yeah.
I think the other thing about that, Chris, I thank you for that. I think the other piece is it's also our children. I have 2 children, and we recently went to visit family, and there was a conflict between the cousins, which, of course, there is, right? And my cousin who's her mother, was like, nah, just let it be. That's the way kids are. Just let it be. And I was like, I really like to do some restorative measures here. Is that okay with you if we just have a little restorative circle? She was like, you want a restorative who?
Yes.
Girl, they're just fighting. I mean, just let them fight. I said, well, they said some hurtful stuff. And I don't want any of them to internalize it. We're family. We're going to see each other again. So why don't we? And so we did a little restorative circle. And she was like, oh, yeah, you did all that psychobabble. And that's the problem. is that if we try to break some of these generational curses, then we become white, we become crunchy, we are too Americanized, and
Too fluffy,
too fluffy,
too touchy-feely.
Girl, just beat him. Just beat.
Right.
Do you know where the spanking came from? Is that if you were a person of color and you were out in public and you were not in line, you could lose your life. It was a survival tactic. So you had to make sure that your children were in line and aligned. That's where beating came from. I get that now. So I don't beat my kids. I want to. Oh, is this being recorded?
It is, but that's all right. That's all right.
We wanted to leave a lot of space for question and answer instead of us just speaking. So anybody has any questions, any thoughts?
I think growing up in New Orleans, being raised by like Southern and New Orleans women, oftentimes what you guys are talking about, someone like me who's in the field, who's kind of learned and done like my own healing journey and then gained more knowledge, oftentimes when I speak from that place, it often gets seen as disrespectful in the communities, especially when it comes to like the Black women in the family. So my question is, like, coming from this generation where a lot of things are a little bit more open than it was maybe for their generations, like, how do you navigate that space, like in some certain family dynamics?
I'll take it.
I think you have to reestablish relationships, right? I think when you think of things like from a family standpoint, you're always going to be seen as your family nickname, or you were just 8 years old, or you were just this person. You have to reestablish yourself as a professional, as an adult, as someone who's here to help and build that trust. Because if you don't reestablish that connection, you're always going to be seen in a way, and then everything you do is going to be taken out of, oh, you're disrespecting me, or you're talking down to me, or you think you're better than me, when really it's I'm trying to help you, but I have to reintroduce myself, and this is who I am now, as opposed to who you've known me as. I think that's a big part of it to start.
Because I feel like you still get seen through a certain lens, and they keep you stuck there, even when you're trying to move away from it. And then there's this battle almost where it's like, it's kind of hard when they're not in a space to be open about it.
Yeah. And sometimes, kind of piggybacking off of that, sometimes you have to take your moments where you can, like grab your moments where you can, right? So I'll give an example. Me and my mom, we butt heads quite a bit, right? And so we didn't really start to having a real strong relationship until her mother died, my grandmother, because they did not have a really good relationship. And at that time, I was in my doctorate program. I was like, oh, I know what's happening here. She's having like all these regrets and anxiety and things like that. And in that moment, I was just there for her. I listened to her. I validated her experience. And I kind of stepped out of that lens of the baby, because I'm the baby of the family, right? And she saw me as someone who she could really confide in. And I really, even though me and my mom have had times where we're literally just at the polar opposite of things, that was a time that I was like, oh, let me grab this opportunity and really show her that I'm hearing her, because throughout her life, not a lot of people have listened to her, like truly listened to her. So we were able to really grow through that moment, even though it was a significant loss in our family, but we were able to grow tremendously. Yeah.
And I would always say lead with vulnerability. I think too many times in our culture, I always say in my family is only anger, right? It's only anger and drama. Like the novelas, the soap operas, that's exactly how it always is in my family, right? And so if you lead with vulnerability and say things like that really hurt, it would take people back for a minute. Like, if you hurt, all I said was, right? It would take people back. But when you say it and you keep saying it, or, I really don't appreciate the way you speak to me. I'm going to remove myself from this situation. This is not the way I want this conversation to go. Oh, you too good. You can't sit and talk. No, I can. And I will. I'm not conflict avoiding. I just don't like to be yelled at. So when you're ready, we could talk. And it changes the way people talk to you and listen to you.
How do you, oh, I'm sorry, no, okay. I work in probation as well at Fort Bend County. And I have a teenage daughter, 5 daughters to be exact. So how do I bridge the gap from what I do at work and dealing with, I said dealing, right? Right. My teenage daughter, because she have similar behaviors that I police in a certain way or a certain manner at work. But again, I want to build that relationship, and I understand what she's going through, and I don't want to hear you doing too much, all of this, whatever, and that type of persona. Where I come from, because I'm from Buffalo, and I kind of feel like, you being disrespectful. But I want to see the person, right? And I got a little mental health background as well. So how do you bridge that gap when it comes from work and personal?
So teenagers are my favorite group of kids to work with, especially teenage girls, because they don't expect a male, especially a black male, to understand or support them. So I'll give you 3 things to do. The first thing is to help her to regulate, right? Get her regulated, and not just like sitting down, go for a walk, do something active. At my job, we call it pattern repetitive rhythmic activity. So doing something like that game we just played, like doing something basic but out of the norm just to get her regulated. Next, you have to find ways to relate. So find what she's into and just kind of start slipping it into conversations. And the thing is with dads, it's okay. It's the coolest thing to do is be embarrassing, to be corny, because all you're really showing is that you care. So help her to regulate, you relate to her, and then when things go wrong, you reason with her. Don't reprimand. Because oftentimes with young people, when they make a mistake, we attack instead of understanding. So reasoning is actually opening the door to a conversation of just like, hey, what happened? What can I do better? How can I be of service to you? How can I support you? And then put it back on them. What could you do differently the next time? What could make this outcome differently? But it's a practice. It's something that you got to continuously do so that they understand where you're coming from. If you do it one or 2 times and you drop it, you're going to get back to this. Because what that really is, it's a simulation to a coping mechanism. I've seen somebody else do that and they got their way, so I'm going to keep doing that because it's going to get you out of my face. And that's not what you're there to do. You're there to really support them. So I think those 3 things, regulate, relate, and reason with them, that'll help.
I think one of the main things you have to do is listen to what she wants to say. Sometimes with children, we think you do what I say and that's it. But sometimes they have thoughts and we don't understand because we don't listen.
Right. Well, the culture where I'm from is like kids supposed to be seen, not heard, which I understand is flawed, completely flawed. I get that. But again, it's just that relating to females. Like at work, I champion my little girls at probation. Like, oh, I love Mr. Pat. Mr. Pat this, da-da-da-da. But at home, failing. Tremendously. So again, I kind of just bridging that gap, and I agree completely with you, Chris.
And I think the key, sorry, I'll come back. The key, just exactly what Chris was saying, like the consistency, right? So, I mean, I've had like kids at probation as well, where they don't want to see me for therapy or don't want to for whatever reason, right? And I just keep coming back and I keep on knowing or kind of asking them about like, what exactly are their interests? What are they into? And that consistency, after a while, sometimes they're just like, why do you keep coming back to see me? I keep cussing you out and I keep on telling you I don't want to see you. How come you keep coming back? It's almost kind of like they then become interested at the notion that they keep coming back even though they're doing what they can to push you away. So even though it will get annoying, it will get, under your skin, just keep going back and keep on reflecting on, different things that she's saying and doing, just to let her know that you're still there and caring for her. It will be frustrating, but I think that's key, especially for teenagers, because that teenage age period it's a weird time, right? What normal patterns is that they're breaking away kind of from their parents, and they're kind of more so interested with their friends. So that's normal, right? But, making sure that you're still consistent there with them and letting them know that you're there is still very important to them as well. They just won't say it. Yeah.
She had her hand.
Yes.
So you guys talked about, like, when you're dealing with family, kind of reintroducing yourself, and then how do you stay within that? Because I find myself kind of going back into a shell. Like, I moved away, I'm from New York, but I moved away from New York and I went to the islands, and I feel like my dad still sees me as the 10-year, 11-year-old. Even my parents, my family still remembers me as this little girl, and I kind of just fall back in it. And like, how do I stay, like, within, because I just go, and I have, like, almost like imposterism. It's like, I know I'm capable, but I just kind of just go, whew, I don't even know what to say right now, because I'm yes, Daddy. Because she don't want that drink, she's too young. And I'm like, okay, Daddy.
That is a hard one. So I also, like I said, I'm a baby of my family, Jamaican immigrants. So my parents are from the islands. When I go home, it's, my bedroom is still there. It doesn't look the same, right? But my mom also kind of still tries to kind of approach me in the same manner, if you will. And it's difficult because, when you're growing up with, immigrant parents, there's this whole, and it's the same thing across the diaspora, right? Respect. You respect your parents, right? Exactly. And in no way, shape, or form am I advocating that you start to disrespect your parents. Please don't do that. Don't say that Dr. Martin said, that you can go home and start cussing your parents out. But it's almost like you have to take initiative, in a lot of different things, right? Whether that's different conversations about things. So for example, my mom likes to watch the news all day, every day. It's like the news, soap operas, that kind of thing that comes on TV. And so sometimes, like when the news is on, I'll just engage her in a conversation about something that's happening on the news, right? And I'll give her like my thoughts on it. She'll give me her thoughts on it. A lot of the times she'll tell me that she's right and I'm wrong, but I'll still use that as kind of an opportunity and with that, I'm not like breaking her routine, right? I'm not trying to kind of break her away from something that she's used to, because that's kind of what grounds them. So I'm joining still her routine, and I'm still kind of like just trying to bring her into maybe a new idea about something, for example, right? So for example, like my background is forensic psychology. Something comes on the news about, a horrible crime or something. I may give her like a perspective about, well, Mom, what if that person has a mental illness, right? And now we start to kind of talk about that, because lo and behold, there are some people now at her church who also are experiencing mental health problems. So I just kind of find like little backdoor ways to kind of connect and kind of bring my perspective into it. And sometimes that helps, right? It's going to be slow going, but it definitely helps. Yeah.
I would like to add is knowing thyself as well, is being able to be grounded in who you're becoming and walk in that light. And not everyone is going to like the light. So you may have a bag of sunglasses to give them out.
That's a big
so
part of it.
So just keep walking in that light. Daddy will catch up. So when Daddy says she can't drink and you're 25 years old, you say, no, Daddy, I would like a Jack Daniels, please, on ice.
Had a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah, may I see your ID? Oh, of course. Right, if the bartender says I'm legal, then I should be legal to drink. Yes, Daddy? Or would you like me to buy you a drink? right? So stand in that light. It's becoming you as well, because it's not just other people see you as a little girl. Sometimes you do too. And sometimes it's comfortable. Sometimes it's comfortable, and it's uncomfortable to be your new you. Yeah.
So I had a comment and a question. I wanted to say to the gentleman back here with the 5 daughters, I love what you said about being consistent and letting them know you support and care. I am a daddy's girl. And I did not tell my dad when he was like, I knew that he loved me. When I was a teenager, I didn't tell him. You know what I mean? I want to be with my friends. Be encouraged to keep on doing what you are doing, because when we are older, we will look back and go, man, my dad loved me. And I know sometimes I was crazy and talking back and stuff, but my dad loved me. We have a great relationship as adults, so be encouraged. The other thing I wanted to ask, as a non-mental health professional, how do you start? You're talking about generational trauma. I gotta start with me. All the things you were talking about, the tags, why do I do this and react this way? How do I start that path of freeing myself and being the light, as you were saying, and handing out the sunglasses?
I'm gonna find you after. I got a book for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a book for you. That's what started my journey. I think it'll help you too.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I definitely. I don't. That's why I was reaching my phone. But it's in my phone. I got you. Yeah, I got a book for you. I got a book for you.
Yeah, I just want to say we only have 5 minutes, and we do have an ending activity for 3 minutes. And I'm going to speak for all of us that we are available to you.
Yeah.
We'll hang out on the side, but we have to give up the stage in 5 minutes.
Unfortunately.
Can I add one more thing? So on the topic of generational trauma, one of the things that us people of color always see as a way to break that trauma is our kids playing professional sports, right? I want you all to understand that is a lottery ticket, right? You know what a lottery ticket is. You play it 1,000,000 times, you ain't never gonna win. I live in downtown Los Angeles. In the last year, they've had $2 billion lottery tickets sold. Ain't even gotten close, right? Lottery tickets are something that we aspire for, but we're never going to cash in. But understanding that there is a power in sport that it helps young people to cope, to grow, and to get through a lot of these tough things that we're going through that we as adults see now. Allow sports to be that vehicle of intervention and support for your young people. Don't treat it as a job or like, this is going to get us out the hood. The moment we get to that point is the moment we lose our children. The moment we burn them out, because it's no longer about them. It's no longer about their aspirations. It's no longer about their growth. It's about them carrying the burden of their family. And if they don't make it out, now they have no identity. They have no self-worth. And they're starting from scratch in their mid-20s, right? So please, if you have kids or family members that play sport, understand sport can be a beautiful thing for children, a growth mindset for children, an opportunity for kids to build relationships, grow and develop. Outside of that, anything outside of that, please leave it alone, because it's destroying our young people. And it's creating more trauma for them because they weren't the ones to get us out of the hood or to break that cycle.
Wow. That is so intense. Why don't we go and talk about how many minutes? Okay. And maybe quickly say one thing you could do to begin the healing process. And then I'm going to close with an actual activity that I do with my clients to help you begin that process.
Yeah. So one thing that I would say, and kind of mentioned it before, is just really trying to increase your insight into those family patterns, those generational patterns. And this goes to your question as well, just how do you do that? One way that you can, especially if you're a non-mental health professional, or if in your daily life you just don't come across these conversations, is really taking the initiative and really honestly coming to conferences like this. So really getting to know and looking outside of the box, right? And just really trying to increase your insight and just going to conferences and talking to other people who may be able to help you in that way.
I was going to say that, but I'm going to add something else. Change your personal space, right? If you got stuff that your grandmother had that has pain involved in it, or you got stuff that like your family had and you feel like you got to hold on to it, let it go. Change your physical space. If you can move out of the city. Move somewhere different. Start over. Because a big part of generational trauma is you're starting from a deficit. I didn't step on this land with like the same equal opportunity already because of my skin color. And now I got my family stuff I got to deal with too. I got to go. Right? So I moved away. I'm from Washington, D.C. I live across the country because they were stressing me out. I've been home, 4 times in 5 years. I don't mess with them. I need my own physical space. I need what's for me. And a lot of times that starts with your physical space. So if you have been living in the same apartment or living in the same house, you got the same furniture, change it up. Because you got to start for yourself. And that's how you start that journey.
And I mean, I'm a mental health professional. Find a good therapist. Find a therapist. Here's what I tell my friends and colleagues, and it's find a therapist that is trauma informed at the very least, but trauma specialized at the best. Yes? Because you want to be able to have someone who's not going to just talk about anxiety and deal with your anxiety. You want someone who's going to dig a little deeper. You know, you want a little surgery happening because you don't want to deal with it again in 10 years. You don't want to deal with it in 20 years. Will it come? Yes. But then you'll have the resiliency. See, that's the other thing I want to say is that generational trauma is not always bad, right? That resiliency that our people have is actually positive. If I'm going to war, I'm asking y'all to come with me. Because I know you are not afraid to stay quiet for 15 hours so we could get the enemy. I know you're not afraid to, you know what I'm saying? You will roll up your sleeves because of what is in our bodies. So don't think that, oh, I'm dragging. No, it makes you who you are. You have oomph. You have gusto. You know, you have it in you. And so don't think that that is always bad. Enjoy and celebrate what you've come from and what you're going and becoming. You know, Maya Angelou says, when you know better, just do better, a little bit better. I want to guide you through a visual activity in the little bit of time that we have. Would you guys allow me? Okay, so it's going to be a little vulnerable. If you could take everything off of your lap and close your eyes. And DJ, can you put on like little soft ocean music, if you don't mind? And I just want you to close your eyes and recognize that you're in this space. I want you to relax your hands and your arms. Relax your shoulders. Notice if you have any facial muscles that are tense. Relax your eyebrow, your jawline. Notice your breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And I just want you to pretend and imagine that there's someone in front of you that you love and they love you so much. They could be dead or alive. And I just want you to imagine that person saying to you, hey baby, I love you. I know this is hard, but you're gonna get through this. Hey baby, I love you. I know this is hard, but you're gonna get through this. I love you. I know this is hard, but you're gonna get through this. I love you. I know this is hard, but you will get through this. And just imagine you're saying the same thing to that person. I love you. I know this is hard, but you'll get through this. I love you. I know this is hard, but you will get through this. I love you. I know this is hard, but you'll get through this. I want you to take a deep breath and breathe in that love and fill your lungs with that love. Again, in. Exhale through your mouth. Just be still for a few seconds. Notice your emotions. Notice your body. And when you are ready, and only when you are ready, you may open up your eyes. How was that activity? Yeah. One person wants to share? No, it's okay. These are the activities that bring you back to you. Allow you, I see tears, I see hard swallowing. Yeah, reach out to your brother and sister. This is not easy, right? But these are the activities that get you grounded here in your soul, in the depth of you, and you start healing. Because you start filling yourself up, knowing that you are loved. Thank you.